Hi there, in the previous videos we looked at how we can test numbers, strings, references and exceptions. In this video let's look at how we can organize our tests, meaning we can put them in groups where we want to test specific things. For example, we only want to test all the numbers or strings or similar. Writing tests one by one in general is fine, there's nothing wrong with it. For example, if you look at our script file, we have two methods which are number and string. So number returns number2 and string returns cat and dog. So if you go back to the test file and write two methods, the test, the return values are as expected. For example, is number function, and we expect this to return number2. And let's say got the number. And for string, we can say is string. And there we expect cat and dog. We can describe the test saying got the string. If we save this and run the test with prove, for test directory and or test. As you can see, all the tests pass fine. Now if you want to group these tests, for example, let's introduce a couple more tests such as number and string, and they're going to be run just as fine as our single tests. So if I run the test again, everything's okay. It would be really good to put these in specific subtests to categorize what we are testing, and we can actually do it quite easily. So in order to put our tests in buckets, so to say, what you can do is write subtest, then name your subtest such as numbers, then the arrow notation, subroutine, and you can just move your numbers that you're testing inside the number subtest. And we can do the same for strings, so subtest and strings. Let's name this subtest strings. That points to subroutine as well. And then we just move all our string tests inside there. And just a little bit of alignment. Save the file and rerun the test. We're going to see that everything passes fine. Now if you run the prove command with vflag that we have done before, which is just for verbose to see more information from these tests, we're now going to see that our tests ran in groups, such as we had a subtest for numbers where we have two tests and that subtest passed fine, and then we have a subtest for strings where we run two tests as well and that passed as expected. Now in general, subtests are just a convenient way to organize your tests. That's not all you can do with subtests. So we looked at how we can actually use plan tests by saying test, as we use the test most module, and then we provide the number of tests we want to run. Now you might think that in this case we are planning to run 4 tests, but we're actually running 2 tests because subtests are actually counted as one test. It doesn't matter how many tests you have inside the subtest. For example, here for numbers we have 2 and for strings we have 2 as well. These 2 tests are actually going to count as one test, and the return value from the subtest is the main one that matters. Now that said, what we can say that we actually expect to run 2 tests and rerun the test with prove command. Right, actually we're not running only 2 tests. We also have require OK, which is requiring our script file. And we're not simply requiring the script file, we're requiring through a test command. So technically we actually have 3 tests. So if we change tests from 2 to 3 and rerun the prove command, we're going to see that these tests pass. Now further to that, your subtests can actually have their own plan. Meaning you can specify of how many tests you're expecting to run in your subtest. For example, you can say that in numbers test we are planning to run 2 tests. So we provide it as such and save that and rerun the prove command. Everything is still passing. However, if you introduce the 3rd test, which is just testing the number as before, and rerun the prove command, we're going to see that our tests now fail. And we can see that the message says, looks like you plan to run 2 tests from your subtest, but we actually ran 3. Alright, that's it for this video. We looked at how we can neatly organize our tests so we can focus on specific domain that we're trying to validate. In our scenario, we looked at how we can group numbers tests and string tests, which is not really useful for this scenario. But for example, if you have objects and you want to test methods, it might make sense to put your method tests in subtests and organize all of your tests quite neatly. I hope you found this video useful, and I'll see you at the next one.